Good evening. Thank you all for joining us. This regular meeting of the Board of Trustees of Socorro ISD is being held September 15, 2020, beginning at 6 p.m. This meeting will be held by teleconference. The teleconference audio can be accessed at the following toll-free number, 1-877-309-2073, using the access code 816-019-805. and through an audio feed located at our YouTube channel. Any member of the public wishing to comment on an agenda item can send the comments to the following email address, board-questions@sisd.net. On March 16th, Governor Greg Abbott granted a request by Attorney General Ken Paxton to temporarily suspend a limited number of open meetings laws to the extent necessary to allow telephonic or video conference meetings in response to the coronavirus. In accordance with those suspended rules, we certify the following. Notice of this meeting has been posted online for at least 72 hours. Number one, although members of the board are not gathered in a central physical location, we do have a quorum in attendance at this meeting by a telephone call and internet access. Number two, we are meeting by use of both telephone conference call, online access, and through use of an email link for questions. Number three, if a member of the public submitted written comments in advance, the board president or a member of the administration will read the comments into record before or during the board's consideration of that item. If you would like to provide a comment at a future meeting conducted by video conference or telephone call, please follow instructions on the meeting notice. Number four, all other meeting procedures will adhere to board adopted procedures to the extent practical. Number five, an audio recording of this meeting is being made and will be available to the public at a later date. Number six, we apologize in advance for any unforeseeable difficulties and ask for your patience as we navigate unprecedented conditions. And number seven, if you have any questions about these suspended laws, please call the Office of the Attorney General at 888-672-6787. And I'll now do a roll call to ensure we have a quorum. Mr. Morales?
Present.
Mr. Guetta?
Present.
Mr. Gondeta? Mr. Gondeta? Do we know if Mr. Gondeta is on?
I think he was having trouble with his computer.
Mr. Nugget, I'm here.
Okay.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Mr. Garcia?
I'm here. Present.
Mr. Mena?
Present.
And Ms. Rodriguez?
I'm here.
Fantastic. Okay. We are now called to
Mrs.
order.
Nugget?
Yes, sir.
Okay, just making sure my mic is on.
Yes, it's working. We can hear you.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir. If you will now all please stand and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance, which is being led tonight by Mr. Al Garcia.
Good evening, President Nájera, Dr. Espinosa, and members of the board. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much, Mr. Garcia.
My pleasure.
And we will now move to item number 3, Superintendent's comments. Mr. Espinosa.
Yes, President Nájera, members of the board, tonight it's my pleasure to recognize the incredible individuals who've worked for SISD for many years, and now they have the privilege of retiring. These amazing employees, they retired during the 2019-2020 school year and also this summer. So my hat goes off to these fine men and women who served with dedication, they served with passion and determination to treat and educate all students as if they were their own children. So I thank them wholeheartedly for taking on the challenging job of being educators and doing their best to serve our children and the families of our community. They've served in many positions here in SISD and many roles, and I know they impacted thousands of children during their careers here in Socorro ISD. We would not be the same outstanding A district without their long time service. So, and I appreciate, their commitment to our students and schools. Normally, we would invite these awesome employees to the board meeting for their formal recognition. But unfortunately, since we're still navigating these challenging times in the pandemic, we couldn't bring them in person. However, they certainly still deserve a special tribute in their honor. And, we're posting an article on the district website, which includes a special video that is also available on our district YouTube page. So we'll also be posting on Twitter, Facebook, so that our social network can congratulate our incredible employees. So thank you again, and congratulations to all of our SISD 2020 retirees. We wish them the best in their future endeavors. On a separate note, and district staff who continue to do a fabulous job to keep each other, our employees, our students, and our community safe. All of our employees are heroes and are appreciated to the moon and back. We're definitely stronger by working together as a team. So thank you, Team SISD. That concludes my comments, President Nakada, for this evening.
Thank you, Dr. Espinosa. And at this time, I believe we have 2 letters that have been sent in as part of the board questions. Ms. Macias, will you read those, please?
Yes, President Nájera, Dr. Espinosa, members of the board. Yesterday, Monday, September 14th, we received a letter from Miss Elizabeth Reese. Good evening. Recently, we were informed that students who had been chosen the traditional learning model for the school year will not be returning to campus until October 19th. I appreciate that this is done to consider the physical safety and well-being of the students, teachers, and all of those involved with the schools. As we see friends and family members across the country returning to school, as we see playgrounds and parks around El Paso reopening, I feel compelled to ask what consideration has been made for the mental health of these children. My family opted for the traditional model because we wanted our daughter in school with her teachers and to be around other students. We feel it's crucial for her growth. She will be challenged in ways she isn't challenged learning from home. She will be encouraged by her peers, even from a distance with a mask on, in ways that I cannot provide. We chose SISD over homeschooling very intentionally. I have a master's degree in elementary education and still do not feel my daughter is in the best learning environment being at home on a computer with me versus being in the classroom with her fellow kindergartners. If we were given the option to send our children to school or keep them learning in a virtual classroom, why are our choices not being honored? Respectfully, Miss Elizabeth. The second letter that we received came today, Tuesday, September 15th, and it reads, Dear board members, thank you, 2 simple words. Yet those 2 simple words transcend much more than paper and reach the human heart. Thank you for putting safety as our priority. Thank you for keeping the countless students, their families, and employees in mind. Thank you for standing up against the pushing tide of politics and sticking to 2 conditions of utmost importance during the pandemic, safety and health. Safety first because there may not be a second chance. Thank you for thinking about the elders who are an integral part of many students and employees' lives. In many homes, it is grandparents raising their grandchildren. Imagine one of our SISD students taking it back to their grandparents and having them end up at the hospital or worse. Where could these students end up? Finally, thank you for standing up for teachers who each have their own story and reason for not being able to teach in person. There are so many awesome teachers with comorbid conditions. There are also many teachers who are the primary caregivers for their elderly parents and or for their children with weakened immune systems. I am one in this category. I am single mother of 2 little girls and take care of my elderly mother who cannot shower or change clothes. What will become of my mother if I become COVID-19 positive? Thank you for being the voice for all of us. Thank you for one human being to another. One death is far too many, especially to weigh on your conscience of what could have been prevented. Thank you, Jay Hijar.
Thank you, Ms. Macias. Item number 4, district reports. A, annual investment report for fiscal year 2019 to 2020. Mr. Vargas.
Yes, thank you, Madam President. Good evening. My name is Rene Vargas. I'm the Director of Business Services, and I'll be reporting the year-end investment report. President Nájera, Dr. Espinosa, and members of the board, as required by Board Policy CDA Local, I'm here presenting to you the year-end investment report for the 2019-2020 fiscal year. This report will focus on 3 areas: the investment yields, earnings, and balances. If I may direct you to page 8. On page 8, you will see the information on the average monthly yields for the 2019-2020 fiscal year. With respect to investment yields, the rates started at ranges of 210 to 300 basis points for the investment pools and 18 basis points for the Wells Fargo repo account. The rates decreased in the investment pools the second quarter to between 165 to 211 basis points. And just to remind the board, remember that 1 basis point is 1/100th of 1%, and it's mainly used in expressing differences in interest rates. And that's the reason why we use basis points. In the period of January through March of 2020, the investment yields for the pools continued to decrease to a range of 152 to 180 basis points in response to several interest rate reductions by the Federal Reserve. In the final quarter, the investment reports saw further decreases depending on the pool of 14 to 100 basis points. The consensus is that the Federal Reserve will not be raising the rates due to the struggling economy and to the ongoing pandemic. Therefore, we don't project that the interest rates will remain low in short and long-term investments for the upcoming fiscal year. Turning to page 9, a comparison of the interest earned from prior year was prepared for each investment pool. All accounts for each pool is separated to reflect a clear comparison of the particular investment account. Starting with the first one, we have Text Pool, and it consists of 11 active accounts, and it had a total decrease of $115,099. Turning to page 10, we have our second pool, which is our first public, and it consists of 8 accounts. It had a decrease of interest earned in the amount of over $269,000. With respect to interest earnings, as you can see that from the prior page and in this current page, that the investment pools, there's a general decrease over the last year on the food service, the general fund, and the interest and sinking funds. While there was some positive amounts on the 2017 bond accounts. This is mainly because of the principal construction balance in that respective category decreased since most of these projects have been completed for the 2011 bond accounts, and we have actually been closing those accounts. On page 11, here you will see the earnings of Wells Fargo and Logic. Again, Wells Fargo is our repo account, and it's our operating account, which is what we use for our general fund account. And it had a 13,106 decrease. On the fourth pool, the account is Logic, and it has 7 active accounts, and it had again another decrease of 111,528. On page 12, we have our next pool, which is Texas Term Daily. It consists of 7 accounts, and that one had an increase of 738,447. The administrative has moved away from long-term maturity investments due to the strong indications that this continuous soft economy that does have no end at the present time. And during these uncertain times, it'd be difficult to find an investment pool that will give reasonable interest rates. As you can see, the exhibit on Texas Term, which is the 6th pool, it consists of 3 active accounts where we had a decrease of 264,755. For the debt service fund, as you can see there, or the one that's labeled interest and sink, This funds, whereby these funds aren't needed until the bond payments for February and August, we felt that there was no advantage in maintaining investments on a long-term maturity. Again, the interest rates were even low for long-term maturities as well. Therefore, for during this period, we won't foresee any long-term investments in the Texas term. The district did realize altogether approximately 7.7 million in interest earnings for all funds. This decreased from the prior year of $195,093. And this decrease again is due to low investment yields during this uncertain and unstable times. Turning to page 13. Finally, what we illustrate here are the investment balances for the entire year. The district started the year with a principal balance of $494.7 million, and this decreased to the end of the first quarter to $413.6 million. This is primarily due to the fact that the district did not receive a state revenue payment in August, and we continued drawing down interest balances for operational cash flow needs. This amount increased to $499 million in the second quarter due to the tax collections in December. The balance then increased to $606 million in the third quarter due to the remaining tax collections and the investment balances finally decreased by $44.6 million in the last quarter, ending it with a balance of $61.6 million. And we did even, and with that said, we even had a receipt of $98.5 million from the third bond sale of the 2017 bond program back in March. In conclusion, the administration will continue to utilize the investment pools. We still use Wells Fargo as a repo account for investment purposes, as well as no longer investing in long-term maturities until the economy shows some signs of recovery. And we'll endeavor to increase the investment yields while minimizing the investment risk. Are there any questions I may ask or I may answer?
Does anyone have any questions? Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Vargas.
Thank you.
We will move on to 4B, Facilities Report. Mr. Iington.
Good evening, President Nahara, Dr. Espinosa, members of the board. My report continues on page 16 of your booklet. I'll begin with Socorro High School. Socorro High School is moving along. We are actually beginning to turn over some of the phase one portions of that project, which includes the band, marching field, some of the parking area. We're landscaping around those areas. We are completing the artificial turf on the softball and baseball field. We will not turn those over because we're still working with the fence on that. But the rest of the project is progressing in phase two. We are continuing to work on CMU block walls going up in the CTE, the career and technology area. We are topped out on the third floor academic wing. We are doing a lot of metal studs, and then we're doing mechanical, electrical, plumbing rough ends on the main portion of that building. If you look on page 17, you can see the three-story addition. And if you look closely, you can see some of the metal studs forming the interior on the second floor of the classrooms. And so the project is moving. If you turn to page 18, you'll see the overall site, the aerial of the site. Up in the right-hand corner, you'll see the two softball, baseball field turf down. On the left-hand side, you'll see where the band marching area is. You can barely see some of the landscape that's going in there. We have finally gotten our final report from the water district concerning our 3 access points to Rio Vista, where it crosses the channel, the irrigation lateral. So we're working on that. Moving to Montwood High School on page 19. This project is really moving very well. We have taken possession of some of the areas because of the ability to go in there and work earlier than what we had anticipated. But there is a lot of work still going on. We've got a lot of exterior wall work. We've got CMU going on. We've got finishing out in some of the areas. And then we've got work in the black box area. If you turn to page 20, you can see that we do have a couple of areas that are completed or will be completed once we punch them out, and then we get some type of certificate of occupancy to occupy those spaces. You'll look on page 21, we've got an area that is completed, and we've got furniture moving into it. So Montwood is coming along. We are still working on the theater part and the fine arts part. Turning to page 22, in the next few slides are just some information for you. I presented this in the facility committee report. We are working on a furniture or fixture equipment layout for our new cafeteria, commons area, and our bistro. You can see on 22 the perspective, and on 23 you can see the floor plan. The smaller one on the left-hand side shows the common areas, which is the existing area, and the one on the right-hand side actually goes above, connects above that, and then it is where the old auditorium was, and that's what we are calling our bistro. Turning to page 24, you can see a lot of the graphic works, the acoustical panels, and things how we are developing on that project. Our next project, American High School, we are moving on that. The new science labs, structural steel is ongoing. We've got a lot of structural steel and joists going up in the CTE buildings. Fine arts building, we got the slabs poured, and the special education and the alternates we are working on. On page 26, you can see that the little addition that we've added onto the CTE building on the left-hand side, and then you can see the drone or the aerial picture of the slab in front of the fine arts area. El Dorado is another school that we are really moving on and doing a lot of work on. There's a lot of site work still going on. There's the classrooms, C&D is almost complete on the second level. The libraries and administration areas we're finalizing. We're working on the concession and the restroom buildings, doing mechanical electrical rough ends, the band room, nurses suite, and architectural room are all being worked on and working on finishes. You turn to page 28, you can see some of the slab work going on, and then you can see the on the right-hand side, that is the science wing addition there. And then on the page 29, on the left-hand side, you can see that we're finishing out some spaces, putting in millwork. And on the right-hand side, you can see a lot of structural framing going on, metal studs, bar joists, and filling in that area. The next project is the new student activity complex. We had a meeting with our architect, basically starting the project into design development, still working with the plating and the annexation portion of the project, and that is that is moving. We're waiting for some documentation from the county. We've got legal working on that, but we're anxious to start this, not restart the project, but to get the project back underway, and everybody's anxious to get that going. The auxiliary gyms, the next project is the first package. We've got, they're moving along relatively well. We have been hit with some delays in our competitive seal proposal packages, which is the auxiliary gym and the support services package due to COVID and some delays in getting permitted on some of the projects. But we are moving. If you turn to page 32, you can see Benito is that's you're looking at the 3 overhead doors that basically open up into the playground area back into the gym. Afita Chavez, you can see that it's dried in essentially, and that we are working on the interior walls with the framing. Luan Chavez is about in the same situation. O'Shea is almost dried in. Lacking the overhead doors, I believe, on that one. And then Ituarte is in the same situation. So the first package is moving. However, we do have a little bit of delays because of the COVID. The second package, Vista del Sol's Horizon, Loma, Cooper, and Sarah Vista, same scenario. We've been hit with some delays because of COVID and permitting. We are moving on that. Some are a little bit ahead of the other ones. If you turn to the page 36, you can see VDS, Vista del Sol has a slab. Horizon is has the footings poured, preparing to get the slab. Loma Verde's got CMU walls coming up. Cooper, you can see in the background, they are scaffolding and putting up CMU walls on that project. And then Sarah Vista is getting ready to do some slab work. And so that project can come out of the ground. The next bid package, big package 3, which are the remaining auxiliary gyms. I will talk about that under a separate agenda item. If you turn to page 40, the support service complex, it has had some extension due to COVID. Some of these smaller contractors have been hit harder than our larger projects. As I stated, the competitive seal proposal projects seem to be hit harder than our construction manager at risk project. You can see that support services technology facility is well out of the ground. A lot of the structural steel is in place. There's some miscellaneous structural steel has to be placed. They are sheathing the exterior with the insulation board. You can see in some of the pictures on page 41 that they have mechanical rough ends going in, a lot of mechanical ducts being placed on the floor to be installed, along with metal studs going up. Our next project is the new combo school. I will be talking to you about that in an additional agenda item, but I put in for your information the site plan that basically shows it being located on Bob Hope, and then on page 44 is the exterior overall rendering of how it looks from the aerial. The East Lake High School and Pebble Hills High School sports lighting and field modification plans are coming along. We had 2 proposals reviewed by the administration and coaching staff at Pebble Hills on the backstop fencing, and we will finalize those and should be putting that package out along with the sports lighting for competitive seal proposal here in the next 30 to 45 days. President Nahara, that completes my report. I'll answer any questions.
Are there any questions for Mr. Ianton?
Mrs. Nada, this is Mr. Good. I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Anton, and I believe the answer is no, but I'm going to ask anyway. You mentioned delays in the construction due to COVID-19. This won't be any liquidated damages, would there?
We've got liquidated damages in our contract, but if we extend the contract due to unforeseen stuff like COVID, weather and things like that, it will not affect the liquidated damages. It would just extend it to, let's say we extend it 30 days and we were supposed to finish December 31st, and now it's been moved to January 31st. If they don't finish by January 31st, then the liquidated damage would kick in.
Okay. So this is something that we can use in our favor.
As far as,
I guess the liquidated damages.
well, I mean, the extensions will be probably more than, have been granted, but looking at the projects and looking at which ones they've extended them, I still think that they're going to be finished well within that time, not necessarily the original time, but they'll be finished, shortly after that.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Any other questions?
Mrs. Nakira.
Yes, sir, Mr. Gandita.
Mr. Ianton.
Yes, sir.
Great job, Mr. Ianton. That's all I want to tell you. Great job.
Thank you. I've got an amazing team. They're hard workers.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Smallest,
you
the smallest construction team in West Texas, and they put out more projects than anybody else, even the high-paying program managers that our other district hired.
Up to you and your team, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ianton.
Thank you.
We will move on with item number 5, consent agenda. I understand that there was on 5A, consider approval of board meeting minutes, that there was an error in the minutes, and that has already been corrected, and we have been sent a revised copy. Are there any items to be pulled?
President Nájera, this is Ms. Rodriguez. I'd like to have item number 5F pulled, please.
5F, Ms. Rodriguez?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Any others? I have a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to approve consent agenda with the exception of 5F.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Second the motion.
Okay. I have a motion by Ms. Rodriguez and a second by Mr. Garcia to approve consent agenda with the exception of item 5F.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, Mr. Garcia.
Yeah, I'd like to pull an item. I don't know if you guys heard that part.
No, sir, we didn't. Which item?
I'm sorry. It was going to be item H.
Okay.
President Nájera, I would like to rescind my motion.
Thank you, Ms. Rodriguez.
And I would like to make another motion.
Okay,
I move to approve the consent agenda with the exception of 5F and 5H.
and do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Guerra. I have a motion by Ms. Rodriguez to approve consent agenda, and I'm sorry, a motion by Ms. Rodriguez and a second by Mr. Guerra to approve consent agenda with the exception of items 5F and 5H. And I'll do a roll call now for the vote. Mr. Morales?
Aye.
Mr. Guerra?
Aye.
Mr. Condita?
Aye.
Mr. Garcia?
Aye. Aye.
Mr. Mena?
Aye.
And Ms. Rodriguez?
Aye.
And the motion carries. Thank you so much. Now to item 5F. Ms. Rodriguez?
I just wanted to make a couple of comments. In our board book, we received the 2019 and 20 donations for different campuses, different clubs. And I just wanted to say thank you to all the campuses and the clubs and the teams and to all the people who provided donations. I mean, monetary donations and items that were donated to different clubs for different purposes, for the father-son conference, the mother-daughter conference. You know, again, thank you to everybody who donated, all the parents and the campuses, because I've been on the other end of trying to collect donations, and I know it takes a lot of time and effort. So I did not want this to go unnoticed. So I just wanted to, make a comment on that. Again, thank you to the campuses, thank you to the parents, thank you to our community who donated items and monetary for our different, for the different purposes, the different clubs, and like I said, athletics. That's all I really wanted to say on this. I'd like to make a motion to approve.
I'm sorry, Ms. Nahara, wasn't there a motion to rescind it first?
Mr. Guerra, I had not called for the vote yet when she rescinded her first vote. I mean, her first motion.
Seconded.
Okay, thank you. I have a motion by Ms. Rodriguez and a second by Mr. Guerra to approve item 5F. Mr. Morales?
Aye.
Mr. Guerra?
Aye.
Mr. Gondeta? Mr. Gondeta?
Hello. Aye.
Thank you. Mr. Garcia?
Yes, ma'am. Aye.
Mr. Mena?
Aye.
And Ms. Rodriguez?
Aye.
And the motion carries. Next item to be pulled was 5H. Mr. Garcia?
Yes, I want to see if Ms. Borrego can give us a quick little brief synopsis of this remote asynchronous instructional plan.
Hi, Mr. Garcia. Good afternoon, Board President Nájera, Dr. Espinosa, and members of the board. I would love to. Would you like me to go over all 64 pages? I'm kidding about that. I would love to. I had the opportunity with my team to present at CNI, and I know about 2.5 weeks ago we sent it to you in the board packet. We're very proud of this plan that we put together that we will be sending off to TEA. I think it's very rich in instruction, and has been collaboration with the entire academics team, Mr. Al Garcia, Dr. Adam Starkey, Veronica Reyes, Richard Ortega, Kelly Mendoza, also with input from all of the assistant superintendents and cabinet as well. We're very proud of the document, and it's going to allow us to reach all of our students, not just kids that are on the computer. We didn't want our kids to be on the computer 8 hours a day. So that's why we chose, even though it was more work on our end, to do an asynchronous plan. An asynchronous plan allows us to create an educational environment for all our kids, whether they're in daycare, whether they're learning in the evenings because they can't always log on, whether they're on the computer because they want to be all day long. So it's various scenarios. As we put this plan together, and as I was telling the CNI committee last week, as a matter of fact, Mr. Mena, I think, was the one that had asked about screen time. Really, screen time is not the focus of an asynchronous plan. It's actually being able to make sure that kids are making progress, that we're closing those gaps, and engagement of students. The plan is very rich also on how they can get attendance, so that we do not penalize kids that can't be on right at 10:30 whenever they take attendance. So it's actually also great for teachers because it allows them to have a lot of input in the way they teach. Everybody has a different teaching style. And so as we put this plan together, we looked at schedules, we looked at materials, and one of the things that we're extremely proud of as Team SISD is that we provided so much training for our teachers, and I'm so proud of our teachers because when we were creating the plan, we had to start from July forward, and we actually, when we were looking at the plan, we looked at it and we said, you know what, we really need to include June. June was monumental for our teachers. They asked us for training. We put training out there within minutes, and I'm not kidding you, within 5 minutes, courses that we had designed for teacher training were completed, were full at 50 capacity. We opened it to add 75 participants. We added courses, and here's the best part. Are you ready? It gives me chills. It's in June when teachers don't get paid. They're on vacation. They don't get extra duty for being in these sessions because they wanted to learn. They wanted their online experience to be successful, the remote experience to be successful. So we had a multitude, as you could see in the plan, we had a multitude of trainings in June. Then we had a multitude of trainings in July. And then this year, Dr. Espinosa, because it was such a different way of teaching, he put in 2 weeks of staff development for our teachers so that they would have the opportunity to plan, to be able to get comfortable with that remote teaching. And we're seeing so much success. So we're really excited. We have seen, I'm also very proud to say, we have also seen the samples that TA has put on their web pages of awesome asynchronous plans, and I got to tell you, ours is going to blow theirs out of the water. I'm not bragging or anything, but you know, we are Team SISD, so it's been a team effort, and I think it's a plan that's going to move us forward. It's a live document, so we're always growing and we're learning. Today we had an amazing meeting with a group of teachers, and they teach us things all the time. And then I had a conversation with a parent the other day, and she taught me something. So we're constantly trying to have this document so it betters the lives of our kids, betters the instruction of our kids, and the same for our teachers. So, and we're getting a lot of positive feedback. We had a WIN Academy training with the WIN teachers this past Saturday. And it was amazing. We got a lot of positive feedback, and we got a lot of good feedback on new techniques that we could use. Teachers are amazing at the things that they come up with. So like I said, this is a footprint type of not all of the things that we're doing, but kind of like a roadmap of the things that we're doing that's gonna propel us forward in these unprecedented times.
Thank you, Ms. Borrego. I really love your optimism. And, you know, as I've told you before, I love that you're just straight to the point. You know, there's no sugarcoating anything. I love that about you. As far as the staff development, I did read in the plan of Schoology, are the teachers going to get a training for that? Or staff development?
Yes, absolutely. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, that was it.
First of all, thank you very much for the compliment. I do love what I do, and I have an amazing team, and I work with an awesome team of colleagues as well. So thank you very much. As far as Schoology, yes, and here's the coolest thing. It's a LMS, a learning management system, and before the commissioner even gave it to us at no cost, we were already in the process of bringing it together. So it's a collaboration that academics has had with technology. I've been working very closely with Hector Reyna and his team. We are going to have power users. As a matter of fact, talked about it today. We're going to have a lot of training because we're never, ever going to ask our teachers to do anything, at least try not to ask our teachers to do anything that we haven't provided good training for them. So there's going to be tons of staff development. This is our rollout year. We won't truly implement it till next year. We'll do pilots and make sure that you know, we test the plane 1,000,000 times before we fly it, because we know what it feels like to build the plane while we're flying it.
Perfect. So this plan does not go into effect immediately?
The asynchronous plan or Schoology?
The both.
The asynchronous plan, yes, sir, it does. We only got a little bit of reprieve on attendance and academics from Commissioner Morath. And so as soon as you all approve it today, we'll send it off to TA and wait for them to approve it. And we're already doing it. It's stuff that we're already doing that our amazing teachers and principals and administrators are already doing. So that will go into effect. Schoology will not. We're going to phase it in little by little by little. Some are already using it. As far as in the training aspects of it, we're going through the training. We're just in the beginning phases of it. So yeah, no, it's not something that we're gonna pop. That's gonna happen tomorrow. We're gonna do a lot of training. We're gonna take care of it, and I can give you a little bit more on Schoology if you would like Miguel Moreno to give you more information on Schoology, and I think he's on this call. He's a little bit more versed on that because it's on the technology side.
Mrs. Borrego, thank you. And Mr. Garcia, thank you. I would just like to say that we actually have started the process of training teachers, but what we are also to confirm what Ms. Borrego is saying is we are rolling this out in a phased approach. And so we will be having, we already have high schools and middle school teachers who are going through the initial trainings, and we're focusing on them for the fall semester. Our elementary school teachers will be beginning to get trained and receive their phase in the spring semester. And so this year is going to be an implementation year where we are ensuring that we're providing enough staff development for not only the teachers as a general group, but most importantly to be able to create some on-site trainers. So we have some wonderful teachers who have stepped up to the plate and said that they are not only users of an LMS, but they would like to be part of empowering the rest of their peers at their campus. And so we're focusing our efforts on them to make sure that we have individuals at both the district and the campus levels that can provide that training for our teachers. And as I mentioned, this year is our implementation year to make sure that we have all of the systems in place, that we get a lot of feedback from our teachers to make sure that we have a good LMS system ready to go for the 2021-2022 school year, in which we will then be moving into our adoption phase. And at that point is where we will be ensuring that the LMS is available to everyone. So in short, it is available. It will be available to all teachers this year, that it will be implemented in a phased approach so that we make sure that we provide the support all along the way.
Thank you, Mr. Moreno. I truly appreciate it. Going back to Ms. Borrego, real quick, can you explain? I know this, but I'm not certain that the public understands this. The TEA requirement of operational minutes. You know, because I did get some parents concerned, and hey, you know, my son or daughter's on all day. It's on screen time. It's required. Can you explain a little bit in regards to that, please?
Yes, absolutely. So, and you know, you just said it, and I'm just going to tell you very directly, be very transparent with you how it works. I think that a lot of people had a misconception of the so many minutes that we had to be online, the minimum, and they were talking about really technically they were talking about screen minutes, but in order to get attendance and to get funding, we still have to be in school 75,600 minutes. So if we just stuck to the 240 minutes a day that TA says is the minutes, there isn't even enough days in the school year. So to explain to parents, a lot of things that we've discovered and as we've studied this have come to light. Really, in pre-K through 5th grade, kids should only be on the screen 105 minutes. And we're constantly working and adjusting. We're working with the principals. We're working with the teachers. Because some of our teachers are overzealous and they would get excited and they thought it was like a classroom and they did keep kids on too long. So little by little, we've been adjusting. Dr. Espinosa has had a lot of input in making sure that kids don't have that much screen time because it's hard on them, and also having us work on activities that kids can do off of the screen. So it's educating our teachers because some of them thought they had to keep them on the screen from 8 in the morning to, you know, till 3:30 in the afternoon. So we do have to have 75,600 minutes of instruction a year, which equals about 7 hours and 15 minutes, which includes lunch and PE and everything else. But that's not screen time. So kids in pre-K should have pre-K through 5th grade, for example, should have roughly about 105 minutes of screen time. Are there going to be times that's a little more? Yes, it could be because the concept is harder. Sometimes teachers don't want them to log out because they're afraid that they won't be able to log back in. So those are all adjustments that we've made as we're flying the plane. We're building it at the same time. Those are all adjustments that we've made. I've had the opportunity to work with both associations and really have them ask questions and give us feedback from the teachers because we want to make sure that we're meeting the needs of our students and our teachers and listening also to the parents and their frustration. Kids do have to be, though, involved in school for the 7 hours and 15 minutes. Now, face-to-face time on the screen should only be, on average, about 105 minutes. But at the same time, teachers have to check in from 8 in the morning all the way to the end of the day and break up that time because TA requires that.
Thank you, ma'am.
Question. There's no simple response to that because it's a little complicated, but at the end of the day, it's all of us working together to make sure that our kids aren't on the screen too much.
Thank you, ma'am, so much. And is it my understanding that each campus, I guess the district, the principals reserve that authority to see how they want to roll it out, or is it like a one size fits all? Because I'm hearing different things, and hey, they're doing this over here, and oh, we're doing this over here. So I'm like, well, I don't know. Let me get an answer for you all.
Well, and that's a great question, Mr. Garcia, and thank you for asking that because I think there's always misconception. So, you know, we have site-based decision making, and that's very important. Just like every teacher teaches differently, every principal is a different principal. That doesn't mean they're not effective. Everybody does it a little different. The assistant superintendents have put out a schedule and the expectations of how much time they should spend on reading, on math, on science, on brain breaks. Everybody approaches it a little differently, without a doubt. I think that having the opportunity to do it a little differently is what makes us, Socorro, so successful? Because each teacher has a different style, and that style works for them. Because imagine if we like told them exactly what to do, when to do it, they'd be like robots, and I don't know that they'd be effective. So it's not a one size fits all, without a doubt. We set the parameters. We set the schedules, the amount of time they've got to spend on reading, and how much time they need to spend on math, what the schedule needs to look like, and then they adapt it. You know, on that day, they may spend, because it's a hard lesson in math, they may spend 45 minutes on the screen for math, where when they get to reading, they've already covered that concept and they do independent practice on the side, and there's not that much screen time. So it is going to vary. It's not even going to just vary school to school to school. It's going to vary grade level to grade level, because most of them plan together, but many times it's even going to vary teacher to teacher to teacher. So we set that parameter, and they and we tell them, you know, I recently sent out an email to all the teachers in the district, and I'd be happy to share it with you. And it kind of details to them things that they can do in place of always being on the screen. But they're going to tailor their instruction. And of course, you know, instruction, the other day I was watching the 3-year-olds on the screen, and it was hilarious. They need a little bit more screen time because they're watching their teacher, you know, put the bag on your head, and, you know, put the bag next to your ear, and they're 3, right? And so they need that interaction with the teacher, where maybe a 7th grader or an 8th grader wouldn't need that much. So to answer your question, it's not a one size fits all. It's going to vary in different ways.
Thank you for your expertise and the information. We appreciate it.
Absolutely, and I'm happy to answer any other questions. If you want to call and see, and I can show you the schedules and get into more detail, I'd be happy to do that.
Thank
Are
you,
there
ma'am.
questions for Ms. Borrego? Okay, do I have a motion on this item?
Motion to approve.
Mr. Morales, were you making a second for the motion?
I'll go ahead and second it.
I have a motion by Ms. Rodriguez and a second by Mr. Morales. And I'll do a roll call now. Mr. Morales?
Aye.
Mr. Guetta?
Aye.
Mr. Gondeta?
Aye.
Mr. Garcia?
Aye.
Mr. Mena?
Aye.
And Ms. Rodriguez?
Aye.
And the motion carries. Thank you so much, Ms. Borrego. We will continue with item 6, new business. A, consider approval of new member to fill the current vacancy on the SISD Foundation Board of Directors. Ms. Macias.
President Nájera, Dr. Espinosa, members of the board, the SISD Foundation met on August 12, 2020, and unanimously selected Ms. Fancy Adams to replace Javier Harvey Enriquez. Ms. Adams is a 2003 graduate of Socorro High School and is a full-time student at UTEP. After teaching college prep and test strategy courses for 7 years in Socorro ISD, she now holds a national position with the Princeton Review and continues to mentor students. Recommendation for approval for Miss Fancy Adams. Don't you just love her name? Fancy Adams.
Motion to approve. Paul Garcia.
Thank you.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Garcia and a second by Mr. Guetta. Mr. Morales?
Aye.
Mr. Guetta?
Aye.
Mr. Gondeta?
Aye.
Mr. Garcia?
Ms. Nájera, can we, quick discussion, please?
I'm sorry, Mr. Garcia, that is my fault. I should have asked for discussion before I called for the vote. Yes, sir, go ahead.
I just want to say that, you know, I'm very proud that Ms. Adams is being recommended to fill the current vacancy. Not only is she a proud Socorro High School alumni, but she is a very engaged member of our community. Just recently, I was approached by the office of Congresswoman Veronica Escobar seeking an engaged parent to partake in a virtual meeting to discuss the burdens, frustrations, and anxiety that families are facing due to the COVID-19. And upon the recommendation of many, I reached out to Ms. Adams, and needless to say, she represented us really well, and really proud of this. So that's all my commentary.
Thank you, Mr. Garcia. And your vote?
Aye.
Mr. Mena?
Aye.
Ms. Rodriguez?
Aye.
And the motion carries. Item 6B, consider approval of TASB Update 114. Ms. Macias.
Thank you. President Nájera, Dr. Espinosa, members of the board. Administration recommends consideration and approval of the revision to the following policies from TASB Update 114. Policy CQB, EHBB, and FFA as presented within the board agenda manual. For policy CQ and DH found on pages 314, 315, and 320, administration recommends for the redacted words of or designee to remain within the policies. TASB Legal, due to policy BJA Local, consistently redacts the words or designee within its TASB updates. However, to provide clarity for our SISD stakeholders, the policy committee recommends to keep the verbiage of or designee for clarity. Recommendation to approve.
Motion to approve.
Okay.
I have a motion by Mr. Guerra and a second by Mr. Garcia. Is there any further discussion? And Mr. Morales, your vote?
Aye.
Your vote?
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
We can hear you.
Can you hear us, Mr. Morales?
Yes, I can.
Okay, and your vote on this item?
I thought I just did aye.
Okay, sorry, I did not hear you. Mr. Guerra?
Aye.
Mr. Gondeta?
Aye.
Mr. Garcia?
Aye.
Mr. Mena?
Aye.
And Ms. Rodriguez?
Aye.
And the motion carries. Item 6C, consider approval of guaranteed maximum price for the new combo school. Mr. Iington?
Yes, good evening, President Nájera, Dr. Espinosa, members of the board. If you would turn to page 327 in your booklet. Administration is recommending consideration and approval for the guarantee maximum price in the amount of $14,124,437 to Bain's general contractor. This would get the project new combo school located, as we saw in the facility report off of Bob Hope in the East Lake area underway. It would allow us to start advertising and to bid the project upon approval from the board. The guarantee maximum price will allow the first phase, which is the earthwork, the building concrete, and the structural steel packages to be put out for bid. If the board approves, legal counsel and administration will prepare an amendment number 1 to the general construction manager at risk contract dated July 23rd of 2019. Administration recommends approval as presented.
Motion to approve. This is Mr. Mena.
Second.
I have a motion to approve by Mr. Mena and a second by Mr. Getta. Is there any further discussion? And now I'll call for the vote. Mr. Morales,
Aye.
Mr. Getta,
Aye.
Mr. Gondeta,
Aye.
Mr. Garcia,
Aye.
Mr. Mena,
Aye.
and Ms. Rodriguez.
Aye.
And the motion approves. Item 6D, consider approval of package 3 auxiliary gyms at Campestre, Escontrias, HD Hilly, Waco, and Robert R. Rojas. Mr. Ianton.
Yes, President Nahara. We received proposals from 4 general contractors back on the 13th of August. And in the facility committee meeting, I mentioned that we would be reviewing those that day in order to make a recommendation to the board. The 4 contractors, as I stated, submitted. Those were the only 4 we had. I sent a board communique this past Friday concerning this project. And basically it outlines how bid package 3 compared to bid package 1 and 2, which are under construction. I feel that the price came in a little high and was not too pleased with the amount. As I stated in my communique to the board, the number is well over $300 a square foot. And I think the project is over budget. At least this portion of the project was over budget. I visited with our legal counsel. We discussed it, and administration is recommending that all bids be rejected due to budget concerns, and that the auxiliary gym bid package 3 be re-advertised and rebid.
Motion to approve recommendation by Mr. Arrington.
Second.
I second it.
I have a motion by Mr. Gondeta and a second by Mr. Garcia. Is there any further discussion? Then I will call for the vote. Mr. Morales,
Aye.
Mr. Guerra,
Aye.
Mr. Gondeta,
Aye.
Mr. Garcia,
Aye.
Mr. Mena,
Aye.
Ms. Rodriguez.
Aye.
And the motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Arrington.
Thank you.
And item 6E, consider approval of request for increase of purchasing cooperative. Mr. Garcia.
President Nahara, Superintendent Dr. Espinosa, and members of the board. My name is Samuel Garcia, Director of Purchasing. Agenda item 6E for board's consideration is to request increase to continue using the Purchasing Cooperative Texas DIR contracts for the purchase of computers, laptops, and network appliances. Currently, the board has approved an authorized limit of $17.4 million. We are currently at 16.34 million encumbrances, which means that we have a little bit over $1 million available to continue purchasing these types of devices. So we are asking the board for consideration to increase this transaction for $6 million, $6 additional million to continue purchasing these devices. And of course, it depends on funds that are available within the district.
Motion to approve.
I have a quick question.
Yes, sir. I need a second first, Mr. Morales, before we get to the discussion.
Second.
Okay. I have a motion by Mr. Mena and a second by Mr. Guerra. Is there any further Discussion. Mr. Morales, you can go ahead.
Yes, this question goes out to Sam Garcia. Specifically, the $6 million that we're looking to budget for, is that having to do with those additional laptops or computers for our students who didn't have them or don't have them at this time?
So the $6 million will accommodate any department, any campuses, any programs, or even if we get any special funding to be able to use. So we really have not indicated what funding sources they belong to. You're just giving us authority to spend up to $6 million if funding is available.
Thank you. I just wanted to be a little bit more specific. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Are there any other questions for Mr. Garcia?
Mr. Garcia, I'm sorry, President Nájera, I do have a question. This is Mr.
Yes,
Garcia.
sir. Go ahead.
Mr. Garcia, how is that $6 million going to be distributed, or what's the plan for that?
What we're simply asking is asking the board approval that if funding is available, either at campus level, department level, that we are allowed to spend up to, in this case, through the end of June of 2021, an additional $6 million, because again, at this time, we have already encumbered $16.3 million. So it's just an authorization from the board allowing the district to purchase up to. So it's not, like I said, it's not committed to anybody. It's just that we have a little bit over $1 million available. And so if we are to purchase additional equipment currently, and if it's more than that $1 million, we will not be able to purchase that. So again,
if I may,
yes,
Mr. Garcia, this is Tony Dessa, Chief Financial Officer. With respect to your question, sir, keep in mind that this is from budgeted funds. We have schools that are ordering laptops, computers, iPads, equipment for their staff and their students from multiple sources. It's not only their general fund funds, it's also their special revenue, which is Title I funds. We also have the ESSER grant that we're using. So it depends on what's been budgeted. We don't want to restrict campuses or departments who have funds within their budget to go ahead and order what's needed. So we felt this was a good number that allowed us to give the opportunity for the departments or campuses, whether they felt it was necessary to order equipment for their students or their staff, these devices, depending on whatever has been budgeted within their department or campus.
Okay, so if this gets approved, then in my mind, 6 million it's a pretty good amount. So we should be taking care of every single kid in the district, correct?
I would kind of defer to Mr. Reyna with respect to the items. I would think that what's being ordered would be covering that. I'll ask Mr. Reyna to kind of follow up with that question.
Thank you, Mr. Garcia. Thank you, Mr. Garcia. Yes, we currently do. We did already have distributed over 33,000 computers. We have ordered over 26,000 computers. We started yesterday distributing an additional 4,000 to the middle schools, and we're going to be addressing the middle schools and the elementaries. If there's a need to order additional computers, I still have around 6,000 computers on order that are going to be arriving soon. If there's a need to order additional computers, this bid would be used for that. But again, like Mr. Reza said, it's also for campuses to order for their staff, for their some of their teachers, some of their clerks. It's for the whole district, not just for our department.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Reyna, I have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Yes, what was the total amount of computers or laptops ordered or that you had projected or you had allocated for the district?
We ordered an additional. Yeah, we ordered an additional 27,000 computers, sir.
And what was initially the order?
That was the additional.
That was the initial order?
Yes. Yeah, we have around over 30,000 computers that we had, so we ordered an additional 27.
And when did those arrive?
They've been arriving in cycles. We received 4 weeks ago, we received 8,600. And that's what we currently have here. We have currently an inventory of 10,000 computers. We expect another inventory to come in hopefully within the next 3-4 weeks.
So obviously we still got a shortage, right? On the computers for, you're saying middle, elementary?
Well, we have an inventory that we've started already to distribute to the middle schools. We have enough for the middle schools and the elementaries. Again, right now we're just distributing. Now the process is going to be to distribute to the kids at the middle schools and elementaries. But again, if we're short, then we're expecting the 8,600 to cover the shortage that we're expecting next month.
And these computers are projected for the school year, not so much for our pandemic situation.
Oh, it's for the children and for the pandemic also, but really just to cover any other needs we might have, including all the children and staff, whoever might need some.
Another quick question. Are those laptops that are available for our students, if need be, are there hotspots for them? Did we get that situation worked out?
You know, sir, in the beginning of the year, that's another good question. We ordered around 6,000 hotspots, and we only have a community. We only have around 4,000 members of our community who needed hotspots, and they were used up. But when we found out they were saturated, there's so many hotspots being used across not only the country, but in the city of El Paso, that they're being saturated. They're not serving its purpose. So we decided for right now to stand hold because we still have maybe a couple left, a couple hundred, but they're not working as they're supposed to be because of the saturation of the number of users across the city. So we're looking at other avenues to take care of our community. We're looking into providing cable internet to the community, or looking at maybe our microwave system for our community, because the hotspots it's not our long-term solution. It's a temporary solution, and they have many issues. Again, the saturation causes low speed. The kids have experienced bad connections. The parents are complaining that they're not working because of the saturation of the hotspots, not only here, across the city, across the country.
Thank you. I'm very much aware that there are areas in our district that the devices don't work very well at all. There's a lot of concern about that.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for that clarification.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Reyna, thank you so much for your responses. I'm just going to close with, it's really important to me that we take care of our most vulnerable in our community, and I'll leave it at that. Thank you, sir, so much.
Thank you, sir.
Are there any other questions? Then I will call for a vote. We had a first by Mr. Mena and a second by Mr. Guerra. Mr. Morales, your vote?
Aye.
Mr. Guerra?
Aye.
Mr. Gondeta?
Aye.
Mr. Garcia?
Aye.
Mr. Mena?
Aye.
Ms. Rodriguez?
Aye.
And the motion carries. Thank you all, Mr. Garcia, Mr. Reyna, and Mr. Reza. Thank you. Item number 7, executive session. The meeting is to be closed for consultation with legal counsel to discuss potential sale and acquisition of real property for school sites, to discuss personnel and real estate matters, and to consider administrative recommendation for principal position at Campestre Elementary under Texas Government Code sections 551.071, 551.072, and 551.074. This regular meeting is adjourned. The time is 7:18, and we will now go to executive session. We are back in session. The time is 7:46, and we will continue with item 8, new business. Consider approval of administrative recommendation, principal for Campestre Elementary, Dr. Espinosa.
Yes, President Nájera, members of the board, administration recommends Ms. Randy Shreve to assume all the roles and the responsibilities as the new principal at Campestre Elementary.
Motion to approve. Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Gondeta and a second by Mr. Guerra. Is there any further discussion?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, sir.
Just want to say that Ms. Shreves is going to do a great job in Campestre. She, that I know of, is a great person. That's someone that's going to understand that community, because that community revolves around the the Campestre School. And I think she's going to do wonderful there. I mean, I know she's going to bring those parents in and get that school going again. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Any others? And I'll call for the vote. Mr. Morales?
Aye.
Mr. Guerra?
Aye.
Mr. Gondeta?
Aye.
Mr. Mena?
Aye.
Ms. Rodriguez?
Aye.
And the motion carries. Congratulations, Ms. Shreve. If there is no further business before this board, we are adjourned. The time is 7:47. Thank you all so much for joining us, and please be safe.